Hello, everybody. My name's Econ Black Moon. I'm joined here with a horror historian, and we're going to go ahead and break open the very first episode of the Extra Mundane Show. Tonight, we're going to be discussing zombies, ghosts, and vampires, and try and figure out how they could survive in our realities, or if we can fight them off.
Yeah, so we're starting out with zombies, which I feel like we're both probably the strongest on if we combine it. And
no.
I call fucking bullshit straight up.
Vampires? Nah, vampires. That's been my... look at the fucking vest, yo. Alright?
You can tell who's way more prepared for this just by appearances. I'm wearing the same shit I teach in my stream every day.
Right there.
Homie's all prepared.
That's Dracula, leather bound.
All right. Oh, sweet Jesus. So, how much prep did you do for zombies?
Well, considering, I'm more on the actual biology. I went through and double-checked on decomposition times, as well as how you can actually stave off decay. So I probably spent about 2 days of researching to make sure that I had valid scientific arguments.
I'm a fucking dork. I kind of went through like the voodoo side, and then I'm like, yeah, the modern shit, that don't work.
No, it doesn't. Because if we're gonna bring up the modern stuff, obviously there are the newer Romero zombies, which are the intelligent zombies, but those still fall under the slow zombie category. But
right,
you got fast zombies. I'm sorry, no,
they're not zombies. That's mad cow disease.
It is. Plain and simple, that's mad cow disease. The author of 28 Days Later, and what's the other one, like another 28 Days Later or something like that?
28 weeks later.
Yeah. They said that specifically they based it off of mad cow disease. So that's
those are contagion films, they're not zombies. So we're already scratching those off the table. Matter of fact, for Night of the Living Dead, they weren't even called zombies.
Correct.
They were ghouls back in the day, and Romero only took that name for the second film because, like, it works, it works.
Right. But even then, ghoul does translate to zombie when you go based off of specifically the likenesses. Ghouls are mindless. They're flesh-eating.
I know nothing about ghouls.
Sure you do. You've played enough Castlevania.
I've killed a lot of them.
Exactly. And a lot of slow-moving...
slow-moving, fucking useless, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we should definitely start at the beginning, though.
We should.
So, initially, there's no biologicals really involved. It's a voodoo or voodoo ritual that makes it so you're a zombie. Starting in Africa and then brought over to Haiti, which then got, like, mixed with Catholicism. But there actually is some some scientific evidence for that kind of zombie.
Mm-hmm. There definitely is. In fact, it's even still done today, if you can believe it, in Haiti. It's
still practiced today.
Yeah, it's a very common voodoo practice. Now that is voodoo. Haiti's version of voodoo is actually not how we spell it in America and in New Orleans. It's not VOODOO. It's
VODOU, something like that, right?
Yes.
I thought I read that, but I can never. Spelling is not my strong suit.
Yeah. Papa Mondi.
Anyone who joins my Discord, you can tell right away I can't spell worth shit.
Yeah. Papa Mondi is actually the most famous of voodoo priests when it comes to the Haitian zombie witch doctors. So. Yeah, I'm well read.
So I kind of am, I'm kind of not. I do better with film and literature, but with those zombies, the whole thing was based off of. So the Bokor, or the priest at the time, what they would do is, so they use this powder, this white powder that would create the zombies. Essentially, it would slow your body right down, so even doctors would believe that you were dead.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, what they would end up doing is they'd throw another powder in your mouth when you're like freshly dug out of the grave. You'd be brought back. You're like, oh my God, I'm a zombie. You would, like, just how your brain, especially in that culture, would function is like, oh my god, I have been brought back from the dead. I have to be a zombie. This person now owns me. Like, it's just ingrained in who you are as a person. So as far as that goes, I'm totally 100% plausible in my mind.
Oh, absolutely. Especially since, I mean, it literally makes it to where you're sluggish, you're unable to really think for yourself, you're exceptionally susceptible to the influence of others. The key ingredient in the zombie powder used in Haiti is actually a tetrodotoxin, which comes from
They also use a couple other... There's a frog that they use as an irritant to kind of like give you like a fast acting, like, oh my god, something is going to happen to me. So it's a mind game right from the very beginning, and it works really well.
Yep. There's also deuterostramonium, which it comes from Jimson weed as well in it.
So basically, instead of having a placebo, they call it a nocebo or something like that, where it's like they're actually giving you something that is tricking your brain, like, oh my god, I am having these effects. I don't have to create these effects, they're already there. Yeah. So old school zombies, I think, are totally plausible, but they're not the way that Hollywood portrays it. More often than not, they're put to the fields. They're not like used for attacks. They are.
See, and here's where I'll actually argue with you, because
interesting.
Mythologically speaking, ghouls, since we are going back to ghouls and zombies, were the manual workers of Dracula, Elizabeth Bathory, King Arthur. Ghouls were the force that made sure that the grounds were kept. They were the only ones that are actually able to be around during the day.
Okay, right. But what I'm saying is, as a fighting force, because they were so drugged, they weren't necessarily the most effective.
Right. I mean, are zombies really effective? Really? As individuals,
they're useless. In combat, they're useless. They're slow. You can run around them. And that's how it's portrayed in films as well. Not only the Romero zombies, but White Zombie, which is the first zombie film. It's always due to a number of them, not an individual.
Correct. Which I believe if the Haitian zombies were mass made, if there's mass influence, yeah, they could do some damage. They could be a fighting force because they don't feel the pain.
But you need a full army.
Right, which you need a full army of Romero zombies as well. Because they need to have that swarm. They need to have the numbers because they... Literally, you can sidestep them and outpace them walking.
Right.
So... Yeah,
so you don't even need to have much of a combat discussion, because essentially, even in a bigger horde, you can just kind of walk around.
Yeah.
You can outflank them without having to put any effort in.
And that's where the Haitian zombies versus real zombies, their threat ends, though. Because with the other zombies, the ones that infect you with a bite or whatever...
the infections style.
Which, I mean, remember, zombies are infection style.
Yep, he was the godfather of that.
Right. So, if we're going with Romero style, the threat is actually not in the numbers themselves. It's in just overwhelming, because even if you get bit or scratched, you could potentially become one the moment you die. And then all your friends are. That's where the real fear aspect is. It's the... oh my god, it's not just them, it could also be us.
See, the issue I have, because again, my background is more in film and literature, the issue I have with the zombies is they were never the scary things. And they were never meant to be the scary things.
Right. It's the disease
well,
scary.
Especially with Romero's work, it was always people were like, no living dead. The systemic racism and sexism was their downfall.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And the second one, it was consumerism. People were more of a problem than zombies. They were just happened to be a background and a way to kill off characters. So even then, I don't feel like they were that effective as a monster at all. I feel like as far as monsters go, I think they're some of the weakest.
Oh, I won't argue with either there at all. In fact, I won't even argue about your assessment that the scary monsters are the people, because if you look back literature-wise and movie-wise, even if we veer away from zombies themselves, but any apocalyptic scenario, the moment that civilization breaks down, that is when the real beast that is humanity comes out, and it is a terrifying monster. So yeah, the real monster in zombie movies, I would have to agree with you, is absolutely the people.
I just think it's amusing that in today's culture, because everything is obsessed with zombies still, and I thought this fad was going to die. I am very much against the whole zombie thing, but they're constantly being portrayed as these scary things, and they're just not.
Yeah.
I honestly, I don't believe in a zombie outbreak. I know that it's technically plausible, but I don't think it's nearly as bad as people make it out to be.
I think if a zombie getting were to actually happen, the worst thing that could come from the entire thing would be, just the cleansing of the less survivable of our races as humanity. Which, I mean, some people can look at that as a worst case scenario or a best case scenario. The choice is yours.
Nah, I'm about to come off as an awful person. I believe in rapid population reduction.
So no, I'm 100% with you there.
Yeah, so I'm not exactly the best candidate for feeling sympathetic during this thing. I mean, to be fair, I'd probably die off pretty quickly. That just seems to be how it works. If we get a weird disease, I'm probably going to get it.
See, my thing is, I don't think that it's actually going to come from a T virus or anything that we as humanity does. I think it's actually going to be nature that says, no, I'm done with you on my back.
See, I think this is where I'm going to differ, because I can totally believe it being, if it's going to happen, which I don't think it does, I could totally see it being man-made. Matter of fact, we talked about one of the studies that I was going through earlier. You read it. I watched a video, there's a group of people that believe that NASA could be the cause of a zombie outbreak. Mm-hmm. So apparently how that works is they send whatever virus up into space. They did it with salmonella, came back to Earth, infected a bunch of mice, and instead of being 60% lethal, it was 90% lethal. Not due to mutation, but because the virus was more expressed. So I could see us just kind of messing with something just enough to create a problem.
I can see that. But then I also have to look at nature. Because
I am not good at.
So, there's this wonderful, wonderful insect pathogen. Alright? It's called Ophiocordyceps unilateralis.
Last of Us, essentially.
Yeah.
Isn't that what they based it on?
That is exactly what they based it on. Which is an insect-based fungus where a mosquito comes and it bites you, and it transfers it into you. And that's how it starts. I can see nature doing that, because it already does that to other things around. It just has to evolve to where it can infect humans. And that seems to be
okay, but as far as I understand from that disease, or that whole thing works, so they typically infect ants, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the ant will make it so it goes to it's easily eaten by prey, eaten, digested, and it starts all over again.
Right. Now, if you bring that onto a larger scale, if the fungus were to evolve, the ants die, they decompose, it infects the soil. We grab whatever fruits or vegetables were growing from that soil in which they just infected, and it mass spreading.
I feel like you'd have to have an entire colony to infect that much to actually...
Right. But, I mean, I'm just stating that would be an easy
transfer. So it would have to take a massive event for that, in theory, so that way when, say, they happen to die right... I don't know, right by where you're gardening, all of a sudden your fucking tomatoes are infected. In theory.
In theory. But let me just pull up this real quick.
See, he did actual research. I watched a bunch of documentaries, and I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
So, just so you know, the largest recorded contiguous colony of ants in the world stretches 6,000 kilometers. That's 3,700 miles.
Okay, that's big.
Yeah.
But they don't... It infects singular ants, doesn't it? Like, it doesn't infect...
It does, but we're talking about if the fungus were to evolve.
Okay, so we're definitely...
Yeah.
Not a microevolution, we're talking almost a macroevolution.
Right. Because this is nature saying, no, I need to get rid of this problem that is causing me to die. It's not the first time that nature's done it. I mean...
It happens constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, nature will rebalance itself whether you like it or not.
Right. So, thinking of it on this level, say it expands, it winds up getting a colony near, and in fact, that's actually through the south of France, which we get a lot of food from.
I'm not gonna lie, it fucking grosses me out.
Yeah. But now
I don't like bugs.
But that's actually plausible. That is a plausible way for a zombie getting to occur through nature.
I think it's a stretch.
I
think both of these are a stretch.
All of it is a stretch, but we're discussing the plausibilities of it.
I think...
Is it likely? No.
No, I mean, there's a big difference between probability and plausibility, and right now we're grasping at straws already, where it's like, okay, these are the common thoughts by people who are peer researched, and like they're like, okay, so these have somewhat of an intelligent thought behind it, and we're just two fucking lay people just being like, yeah, I think, well, I'll speak for myself. I'm a fucking lay person. I don't understand this shit at all. I'm not a science guy.
No, I mean, and that's where we balance each other out, because you have a lot of the film historic background, while I have data and analytics, because that's my kink. I like numbers.
And numbers are great, but when it comes to this, it's just a little bit like, yeah, I'm so caught up with it. I just think the probability is so low, it's almost not worth it. But the government disagrees with me on that one, because they do have contingency plans already for zombie outbreaks.
I mean, with how widespread the conversation is, it makes sense that they would have one, just to be like, yes, we have one, now shut up, leave us alone.
But the fact they still have one.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that covers zombies, really.
Now, how would you survive a zombie outbreak?
All right. So now we're going to get into the stages of decomposition, you see.
This is where I think that the whole zombie thing really has an issue.
Now, this depends on the environment that you're in, okay? Because keep in mind that morgue refrigerators or cool chambers are kept at 4 to 8 degrees Celsius, which is 36 to 39 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay?
Which will drastically reduce decomp.
Decay specifically, not decomp. It's actually still going through putrefaction, just at a vastly slower rate. And in fact, it extends it to 3 to 6 weeks beyond normal.
Okay, that's a lot more than I thought, but all right.
Yeah. It depends on the temperature. If you get to 0 degrees Celsius, it's as if it's at a standstill.
Okay, so I'm curious where this is going then.
A lot of films say that Alaska is a safe place to go.
No, it sounds like... I don't do well in cold, so fuck that.
Right, but specifically the Resident Evil movies, that's the one that really got me.
Oh, those are garbage. So
They are, but they are a zombie movie. They are slow zombies. And we agreed we're going to discuss slow zombies. So
Right.
But that's it. Just it. That would not be the safe place to go because there would be no decay. They could just rapidly expand. They would stop their decomp. Now, in any environment that is above 39 degrees Fahrenheit.
Well, wait. So, but wouldn't that lower temperature also increase things like cell death due to just frozen cell structure?
Not if they're regularly ingesting. It's just like us drinking water in a cold environment. Because you're forcing the contents to go through, hit the bloodstream, because the bloodstream's still active. It still because their circulatory systems are still intact. It still pumps through. There's just, it just keeps on expanding. Because there's no actual pump. Heart don't work. It's all brain. 3 days is all you would have to survive in any other environment.
Right, because at that point they're already decaying to the point where it's like, okay, well, one, you can outrun them anyways. They're already having issues. They're falling apart.
Actually, it's because after 3 days, the brain is liquefied.
Or in my bar, it takes about 20 minutes.
Well, I mean, that's most
Bourbon will do that for you.
It will. But once it reaches...
As we're both drinking fucking whiskey.
Mm-hmm. Once it reaches the bloat point, which is in the 3 to 5 days after death, the brain has been liquefied and the rest of the organs are in putrefaction, which is why they bloat and expand. The organs are just liquid. So, how would I survive? I would sit in my bunker, which I have, and I'd have all of my swords up lined up against because, I'm
It's what you do.
It's what you do. You gotta have guns and ammo for long range, but you need short range too. You need short range. Yeah,
I would be straight up. I would be fucked.
No, you want it.
I have no firearms here. Well, I'm really good with a knife, but that's not the best idea.
That's not long range enough. I mean, it's short range, but it's not. It's not quite.
It's a little too short.
A little too short. So, literally, if it is a slow zombie scenario, we also know that their strength isn't that much, unless they're in large numbers. But, you could literally just chill on a roof with a barricaded door and wait out 3 days and then be like, ha! You suck. I win.
You know what? I'd be that guy who would be like, yeah, I'm set. Fuck, where's my water?
Here's the thing. As long as you have a pot and even a steno burner, okay? You can actually drink your own piss. You just have to boil it.
That's a big old bag of note from me, homie. I know it's supposed to be sterile. The whole thing is that's a big old bag of nope. There will be no drinking of piss. I can tolerate a lot. Nope.
You have drank vodka before, so.
Bourbon.
I know.
Bourbon.
So just imagine that, the piss is bourbon.
Don't taint this for me.
Literally, unless you're in a cold environment, you would only have to survive 3 to 5 days.
Yeah, it's at most a week.
And
so say they're not. That's only if they're not good at containing the actual infection. But there's enough. Right. Like where I live, there's enough fucking rednecks. I'm not too worried.
Right.
They'll shoot you for going onto their property anyways. So just stay where you're at. You're good. Like I actually my apartment. It's a metal door set into a metal frame, which is bolted into concrete. I'm good. Mm-hmm. I doubt a zombie's going to come to my fucking apartment.
Yeah, and again, since you have that reinforced door, it's not really something you really got to worry about.
Yeah, me and my cat Jericho, we're good.
So, but even if you didn't have water for whatever reason, you didn't feel like doing the survivalist method.
Nope.
So science says that you can go without water for 3 days, I think it is. That one I'm not 100% on because I've proven that wrong myself. I have gone a week without water.
I could not do that.
So
I would need to ingest a lot of it because, especially after that talk about drinking piss, I need more bourbon. Okay. So anything cold, bad idea.
Yeah.
Being in a city, good or bad idea?
I think that would depend on the city. Largely New York, I would say, like New York City itself, I would say no, bad idea to be in.
I would say no to New York City, regardless if there's a zombie apocalypse. Just throwing that out there.
You know, you said it, not me, and it's honestly the people is why. Stay out of urban environments in general, just because mass panic causes mass hysteria, and people do stupid shit.
No, I'm throwing this out there because I know that several people who are going to be either listening or watching are members of PH16, which is Philly-based.
Right.
Good idea, bad idea?
Philly? Oh, yeah,
yes.
Philly's fine.
That shows you the big difference between New York and Philly. Jesus Christ. I'm not even a hesitation. He's like, oh, man, fucking New York sucks, but Philly,
okay, now
they're good.
The whole reason why is New York City itself has a gun ban. The vast majority of people are not permitted to have a firearm. Philadelphia is not the same. Philadelphia, you can have your firearms. You have that added protection. Without that long-range protection, then,
you're kind of screwed.
Yeah. And, you know, we're going to leave the whole New York City discussion right there because I have a lot I could say, but I ain't gonna. Because it's not on topic.
Fair. That's fair.
But yeah, Philly's safe. Just about anywhere that is not banned. Washington, D.C. is another one where it would be a bad idea to go.
Because of their gun ban.
Correct. On the other hand...
Now, would you be pro-gun or pro, crossbows, compound bow? Just throwing this out there because that's always a debate.
I'm pro whatever ranged weapon you feel proficient with and can actually hit a target with.
I mean, I'm much better with a pistol and a rifle than I am a bow. For me, that's an easy choice.
Okay, if you're good with
but it's also sound grabbing.
The thing is, keeping in mind, that's the one thing that really irritates me about the movies as well, okay? They don't have those senses.
I'm more concerned about other people. That is always going to be my biggest concern.
Okay. For other people, I think it depends on the scenario. If you're only dealing with one or two Zeds, then probably something quieter. But as I actually learned in New York, all you need is actually a soda can and fill it up with cotton balls.
I know that trick.
So.
Yep.
I mean, you can make a handgun quiet. It don't take a whole lot.
But I think that's so I think it's suppressed. Now, I still don't. I don't think that this is something that has to be concerned. I just don't think zombies are a thing. I just don't.
Well, we already proved that they are a thing, though.
Not
Haitian zombies. Haitian zombies exist.
Yes, but I'm not concerned about them because they're not necessarily designed as a tool of war. And when it comes to Bokar, they're also their whole thing is balance anyways, which are the ones who make zombies. So typically, if they're raising someone from the dead, they're trying to teach a lesson to the community. Like, hey, this is fucked. We're gonna stop this.
Right.
So, I'm really not super concerned.
Neither am I.
So zombies, not worried, easy thing for us to deal with. But now we're going to hit a subject I am fucking almost useless at, because all I know is film, which is the goddamn vampire.
Oh, we're saving ghosts for last?
Yeah, because I feel like that would be an easy one.
Okay. So
from our discussion earlier, I think that one's going to be easy.
Probably.
I'm useless on this one. Matter of fact, vampire films are not my strong suit either. Like, I really enjoyed the Hammer films. I think the Hammer Dracula films are amazing. Of course, you do have your, Bela Lugosi, you have the original Dracula book, all fantastic. But it's not my strong suit. Matter of fact, a lot of those really just, they're not good movies, so I don't focus on them.
Whoa. Did you just say Nosferatu is not a good movie?
No, that one's still good. But I'm talking like even, was it John Carpenter's Vampires? It's enjoyable, but it's a shit movie.
Yes.
Was it Dracula? Was it 3000? Shit movie.
Okay, hold on.
30 Days of Night, that's a good movie.
Yeah, I was actually very, very pleased with the take they did on that for the vampires. Did you say John Carpenter's Vampires is shit?
It's enjoyable, but it's not a good movie. The original Dracula being fucking Judas, I mean, come on.
Actually, there is evidence behind that. That's the thing.
I mean, that's some apocryphal shit right now. So as my background, for anyone who doesn't know, I was once reverend. So even I'm like, from my church background, I'd be like, what the fuck? Like,
yeah.
Nah.
No, well, here's the thing. I also was a Christian youth minister, so...
Yeah, we've talked about that. So I'm like, I believe some wonky shit sometimes, or at least I have believed in wonky shit in the past, and I'm like,
What are the two primary things that vampires are weak against?
Sunlight and a stake through the cross. Or stake through the heart. Fuck, bourbon's catching up with me already.
It is, and I'm enjoying this.
So, but like with the whole sunlight thing, like lights, I have a fucking light sensitivity.
Right. So those are actually not it. In fact, the cross is actually not what vampires are.
Well, what I meant is it's like, film-wise, a lot of times, stake through the heart is how you kill them. Light can kill them.
That's also not how you kill a vampire. That's how you paralyze a vampire, so you can behead it and then burn it.
I can't remember what region it was, but their whole thought was you had to kill it, behead it, and you had to bury the head underneath the body. I can't remember where I learned that from.
That is not vampires, but that's demons.
God damn it. See, I'm useless in this section. Okay, so I've struck out now. That's 3 times I'm wrong. So what is...
All right.
What vampires are actually afraid of?
When it comes to crosses, what in that time period that Judas was around, okay, what were crosses primarily made of? And even up until early 1900s.
Well, it depends on the region you're talking about. Because at that point, everything was all done with certain types of wood.
Wood emblazoned with what?
Again, that depends on when the Romans decided to crucify you.
Silver.
Well, they use silver, they use fucking mercury, they use anything they get their hands on that was shiny.
Silver was the primary component in actual crosses. Now, what was Judas
I'm talking about for actual...
Hold on. What was Judas bribed with?
Oh, the silver pieces, of course.
That is the correlation when it comes to the weakness of silver and Judas.
So whatever I do, I just gotta make sure I'm not gonna be bribed by silver. Got it. I'm good.
Right. So you've got that being the... It's actually not the religion itself. It is the fact that the crosses that they show in Bram Stoker's Dracula, as well as many of those other ones, they're all silver crosses.
Right. I was thinking more of like when they were curing the wood for actual crucifixion.
Right. In fact, that's if it's dogwood is actually the weakness for woods. when it comes to vampires, because that's what Jesus was no
Of course, crucified on, yeah.
And you know,
but this is taking it like the plausibility of Judas being the first vampire. I feel like is probably one of the biggest stretches we have said so far.
I can see the correlation. I can see where people are making the connections. Because I researched it pretty thoroughly as well, because I was like, you know, that it doesn't seem right. But at the same point, when it comes to the Catholic Church, I can see the correlation. I really can.
Like, I'm a big fan of the Apocrypha. Like, don't get me wrong, but even then, I'm like,
right.
Okay.
Right.
So we have the Judas idea, which I'm already saying is bullshit.
Yeah, it is.
Probability nil.
See, and before Judas even existed, before there was Dracula, before there was Elizabeth Bathory, there was a great, mighty Celtic vampire legend. It actually happened about 300 years prior to the birth of Christ. So, there's not a whole lot to it. You know how hard it is to find actual details that aren't in English, or there are in English rather.
Nope, because I told you I am fucking useless on this one.
When it comes
beyond useless.
That is such ancient Gaelic that I can't make heads or tails of it. But
which I should know. That's my heritage, but like that's just not something that I'm proficient at at all. I can't even do English. We've already like pointed that out. English is not my best language. Absolutely. And it's my only language.
So that is the first reference of a vampire in history. It was actually years before. So I actually have to nail the Judas thing as being the first vampire right out the window, because it's
gone. That's garbage. We're done with that one. Good, because that movie wasn't that plausible anyways. Next.
Then you have Elizabeth Bathory. Have you ever heard of Countess Elizabeth
Bathory? I know the name pretty well. I believe I watched at least a documentary on her. Is this the one who bathed in blood?
Yes, specifically virgin blood.
See, I did watch something on this. It's like a little mini doc.
Yeah. She was alive in 1560 through 1614. So that's actually a very, very long lifespan for that time period. I don't know if you're aware of that. That's
news to me.
It's 54 years old. At that time period, people were lucky if they made it to 35, 40. And then you have Vladimir Zepesh, or Vlad the Impaler.
I know the name, but I have 0 point of reference.
Vladimir Zepesh, also known as Vlad Dracul.
Oh, okay, Vlad the Impaler then.
Yes.
Okay, that's why it sounds familiar.
And outside
again, I just don't have much context for this, because again, vampires have never been something that I've been like, yeah, I need to fucking learn this. It's always been because the subject always goes to zombies first.
It does. See, the interesting thing about Vlad the Impaler is that my mic is coming out of my left ear. Okay.
Wow, interesting facts.
Okay. Sorry. So Vlad the Impaler actually took on the fears of people. That they started calling him a vampire because he would make sure that people died when he impaled them, and he would have a picnic with his wife. He drank deep red wine with her, and the peasants and other people thought it was blood. So he embraced that to increase the fear that he was bringing to the Turks. To this day, Vlad the Impaler is actually looked at as a hero in Wallachia. which is the township in which he ruled.
Yeah, my heroes are a little different than that, I'll tell you what.
Considering he was the one Romanian/Transylvanian who was fighting off the Turkish hordes with his skeleton crew of about 1,500 soldiers for 10 years.
Okay, like definitely, obviously, like a very prominent figure.
Yeah.
But I think we can both definitively say, not a vampire.
Yeah, there's great story and great embellishment, but that is the source of him being is he used it as a tool in war. So, he is definitely not a vampire. He is a fantastic historical figure. You should read up on him. There's amazing.
Okay, I'll put that in my notes for things to do later because I got nothing. Yeah, this is seriously one of my weak spots in especially this type of horror history, even, which is like it's just not something that's talked about. There's no like the fads for vampires. We have the modern view of it, which is this sexy, charismatic thing, which is very much Anne Rice. And I'm a fan of.
I would not say it's all Anne Rice.
It's not all Anne Rice, but she, in my mind, is one of the better writers for that.
Okay, if we're going for if truly fantasy vampires, less horror, then yes, absolutely. She is by far the better of the writers out there. Second only, in my opinion, to Barb and J.C. Hendy, who write the Damn Fear Saga.
Fair. That's very, very fair.
And that's because it's more of an adventure thing for me, and that's my gig. So.
Now, of course, I mean, the elephant in the room, it's been mentioned in my chat. You gotta mention Twilight.
No, I don't.
You're talking vampires.
No, I don't have.
No, that's not a vampire. I think we can all agree that is probably the worst mythos I've ever fucking heard. For any creature.
Vampires don't glitter in fucking sunlight. Okay? Oh, it's because their skin is like granite. No, it's really not. If it was like
granite, even if your skin is granite, you're not gonna fucking sparkle like you're bedazzled.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but no. Twilight is not. It's not. They aren't vampires. They can call them vampires. They're pretty boys with fangs. Okay? That's it.
So what you're saying is, I could be a vampire.
You could. Sparkle from your heart, Daddy.
Jesus. Okay, anyways, I opened the door for that one. That's my fault. Okay, so I think these are less possible than a zombie, clearly. But if so, say they're there.
The thing is,
then what?
I actually would argue more strongly that vampires are possible than I would zombies.
Okay, you have to elaborate that one because I got fucking nothing.
So, the vampiric disease is a bloodborne pathogen. It is transferred from one to the other by DNA exchange. The saliva from the fangs enters the bloodstream, and that is what causes the vampiric change. Now.
Okay.
How many dope fiends do we have out there? We have AIDS, we have HIV, we have bloodborne pathogens out there. It's not hard to imagine that one of them would cause the same traits as a vampire to have.
Well, you have things. Was it porphyria, where they're missing certain things in their genetic makeup, like they do have the sensitivity to sun, not just with their eyes like I do, but actually like their skin will like burn horribly in sunlight.
Absolutely.
Although I think their urine also turns purple in sunlight, which is interesting.
Yeah, there are people that have died from sun poisoning from just a few minutes out in the sun because of how
but that's an extreme case.
It is an extreme case, but that's also why a reason why I believe a vampiric disease is more likely than a zombie one because we already have so many bloodborne diseases that are easily transferable from one person to another. Again, it wouldn't take much for science and what we're capable of doing, let alone nature itself, to cause something to make another apex predator to eliminate more of a species.
I mean, I don't have an argument against it. I'm really struggling right now to be like, no. I mean, I still feel like, I mean, all of this is so far very, very no.
Right. Obviously, at this point in time, no, they're not a thing. But
you think further down the line that enough, I mean, I feel like this would be much more of a micro evolution for a disease than a macro evolution like a zombie.
It would either be a micro evolution through nature, or it would be a man-made pathogen that got out of control. So more along a contagion film type vampiric infection.
So much closer to like a 28 days later than a...
Yeah, imagine a 28 days later mixed with 30 days of night. Because it would be that type of a monstrous exchange, in my opinion, with how it would deform the body.
Right, because they don't look, they're not pretty. They are, like, if you look at those, especially the comic version, they are very deformed. Like, there is no, you're not going to look at that and fucking, well, I mean, you might lust over them if you're into that thing, but more often than not, people are going to be repulsed by what a vampire would look like.
It would, I imagine the physical transformation would be much closer to Nosferatu.
I'd say more Nosferatu, less Alucard.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because I can, in both cases, whether evolutionary or man-made, because the pure amount of DNA change that would cause a deformation in bone structure, especially if the teeth are forced to elongate in such a fashion.
Let's say your jaw would no longer fit properly.
Correct. So, and that's another thing that a lot of them get wrong is if a vampire were to exist, to maximize the clamp damage as well as absorption. You can see this in fish as well. And dogs. Your canids are there so that they can bite down, get through that tissue, so that they can get as much into their mouth as possible. So,
well, at that point, you would see like a more of a buildup of muscular structure around the jawline to clamp. You would need to have more than what these standard. Right. Yeah, they have that. They have a very pronounced jaw.
Very pronounced jaw. The muscle structure in their jaw hinges. In 30 Days of Night is very, very prominent. It's very obvious they have a stronger jaw structure and muscle than your normal human. So,
you're not going to be shocked by, like, if you see one of these things, you're not going to be like with a zombie, like, maybe that's undead, maybe homie has a cold. Vampire, you're like, there's something fucked up with his jaw. I think I'm going to go back inside.
Yeah. Now, since we're talking about going back inside in vampires, I don't think that the rule of inviting somebody in is
no, I don't think that works either. I think if you like what the original thing was, like if you threw salt on the ground, a vampire was supposed to count the grains of salt, which is why the count on Sesame Street counts. I don't think that's a thing either.
Okay, so it both is and isn't. The salt would only actually work if consecrated bread was also there.
I just fucking know nothing about vampires. Jesus Christ.
Again, this is my jam. So
we get into demons, I'm good to go, but vampires, I'm kind of fucking useless. Okay, for the dumb person like me who knows nothing on the subject, what is the common vampire bullshit, such as throwing salt on the ground, that we just get wrong?
Okay, so that's actually not
In theory.
even common knowledge right there. The salt on the ground. Not a whole lot of people get that.
I like Muppets, so for me, fucking Count from Sesame Street. Yeah. He's my favorite Sesame Street Muppet.
Obviously the religion, because faith has absolutely nothing to do with it. It is...
Which we've already established, he's not Judas. It doesn't work.
And even then, that wouldn't be the cause of it if we were going to go with that myth. It's actually the guilt over accepting the bribe that causes the distaste for silver.
Right. So, metal and religious icons, no bueno, not necessarily going to help you any.
Silver actually would be, especially if it's Quicksilver.
Okay, I thought we just debunked this.
No. If we're going... the religious thing has nothing to do with it. That's...
Okay, so religion out the window, no fucking good.
Thematically, invitations into the house, that's a very proven thing thematically in horror movies. In reality, not going to happen.
But that's a very Bram Stoker thing, as far as I am aware. Like that's very much a welcoming, very.
That actually traces back to Dracula prior to Bram Stoker writing about him. Because
Bram is about as old as I've gone, so
it's a Romanian culture that no one is allowed to enter another's house, even if they are royalty, without the permission of the person.
Okay.
So, that's where that originates from.
Okay.
But in modern day reality, no. If it's an evolutionary or man-made thing, they're just going to...
Clearly not going to help you any. Yeah.
They're going to feed. Period.
Homie ain't going to be like, yo, man, can I come in for a drink? So did there with the blood?
I did. I do think that one of the things that could possibly work is following the blade method, especially with the Reaper strain, because the Reaper strain is man-made. I'm not sure if you watched I believe that's Blade 2.
I watched all three, unfortunately.
We'll get into that off stream.
Oh, the third one was so bad.
Okay,
Hunter Hearst Helmsley as a fucking vampire.
I won't argue with you about Trinity. I actually regularly refuse to acknowledge Trinity's existence.
Okay, so there's that at least.
Yeah. But the second
But anyway, so the Reaper virus.
I believe that one would be the most plausible for it happening. In which case, anything through the heart is gonna work.
Well, I mean that works for every creature, though. Like if you shoot me in the heart, I'm going to die, vampire or not.
So vampiric wise, however, silver and Quicksilver are the two things that do the most damage.
Okay, but on a biological level, as
that's what
in our world, does it make the difference? You destroy the heart, you destroy the heart. It doesn't matter.
I think that depends on the mutation, because the mutation could cause an extra artery or something to grow. There's many possible mutations out there.
Now this is an interesting subject because a lot of people right away are going to call bullshit on that, and I am going to disagree with calling bullshit. As a few people know, I actually have a tendency to do self-surgery all the time because I do develop new veins and arteries, and they grow outside the skin. So I can understand how, in theory, something could develop.
Right.
That could either change the organ itself or create a new one, shift it, whatever. So say I aim it, well, even the standard person, if I shoot where I think the heart is, I still might miss.
Right.
Just I'm going to destroy your lungs in the process and you'll fucking die, but I may miss the heart.
Here's my question for you. Since standard person, where's the heart in your body?
The more developed part on mine, because I've had enough x-rays, it's not dead center of your sternum, because one side of mine is way more developed than the other, which is standard for most individuals. Mine is actually way off to the left.
Okay. Yeah,
So you actually, if you shoot me in the heart, you're actually destroying my lung anyways.
right. So, and then if you consider the Reaper virus, specifically the Reaper at this point, if you remember, there is a bone cage in those vampires that actually it grew to strengthen around the lungs and around the ribs themselves.
There is a medical background for that, which is called the calloused heart.
Correct.
Which actually starts creating a tougher tissue around the outside surface of the heart to make it more, well, either because it's beating too fast or it's overworked, it will actually create a tougher tissue. So that there is a level of background to that as well. So that's got some credence to it.
Right. Now, Quicksilver, when it interacts with the human body, or any living tissue for that matter, has a drastic chemical reaction. Have you ever played with Quicksilver?
Nope.
All right.
I heard that was a really shitty thing to do, so I never did.
All right. Let's, So, Quicksilver is purified mercury.
Right.
Now, mercury, it basically kills anything it touches because of its chemical compounds. The best thing for you to do, and it was actually used in many vampire hunting things, including Hellboy. Hellboy uses Quicksilver. Helsing uses Quicksilver.
It's big, yeah. I remember that being big in those.
Yep. And that's because it has silver properties as well as mercury. So as long as it punches through, which the Quicksilver will help that do, just shreds through and that'll melt the heart down.
Okay.
The only guaranteed thing through all lore that every single one outside of the word that shall not be discussed because they're fucking not vampires.
Fair. Not going to argue that one.
Is sunlight. All mythos agrees that sunlight is deadly to vampires. Instantly deadly.
Okay.
But it has to
I'm
be...
not arguing so far. You know way more about this than I do. Ask you direct then.
Yeah. It has to be direct sunlight. It can't be a beam of light. Direct... If we're gonna
no flashlight, like a standard flashlight, ain't gonna fucking help you.
No, a UV light's not gonna work. It has to be true, real sunlight. So, and
why?
This is where it actually goes to Greece. So there is one of the other first vampire lores. There is a young man who had fallen in love with a maid of Apollo's temple. And he went there and studied with her every day, and eventually she fell in love with him as well. He agreed. He asked her to marry him and go run away with him. So she says, okay, come by the next morning. Apollo, enraged by this, in case you're unaware, Apollo is the sun god, cursed him to where he can never enjoy daylight again. And he'll be instantly incinerated.
We're getting into that weird thing again, because like, yo, if I don't believe that Judas was a vampire, well, I'm having a hard time with Greek mythology. Also be like, yo, fucking vampire.
Well, that's the only correlation that's made it to him being a vampire, because there was never any tells, but that's the sun sensitivity. That's where a lot of people draw that from when they're writing vampire novels. That's where Bram Stoker got his idea for it.
Okay. I'm just saying, like, I'm still trying to bring it into, like, okay, in our world,
well,
I call bullshit.
Except you can't, because we already proved that sun allergies
I'm thinking
exist.
I'm thinking more like porphyria, things like that. I don't think anything like an allergic reaction because a god was pissed. I don't think that works.
If we're talking metamorphosis by nature, as we already discussed, nature, it balances things out. if something is an apex night predator, which with all the senses that a vampire would have, it would be a night predator.
Right.
Typically, they do have a sunlight allergy or a sensitivity. They're albino, whatever it might be. So,
which is when you're getting into the, I don't know if you've read the books, like I think it's called 13 Bullets.
yes, I've read them.
Kind of fits into that kind of realm as well. It's one of the few modern ones I've fucking read. All right, so I need to lean on that shit when I can.
Yeah, so I absolutely think that if it's a natural course, the sunlight sensitivity would be a thing. That would be a definite why, because nature would make sure there was a balance to it. Man-made, I can't say. Honestly, cut its head off and torch it. It would be if it's man-made. That's the only thing.
I treat it just like I would fucking Resident Evil 1 zombies. You drop it, you burn it.
Mm-hmm.
No exceptions. It's like a life lesson right there.
It is. It is. I mean, that can be said with a lot of scenarios, but that's basically it.
Vampires, zombies, bar fights. You drop it, you burn it.
Bar fights, really?
That's just where I went. I'm sorry.
So, I don't have anything else on that, really, because it again, I think it is plausible via nature or man, just like zombies. I think it's actually more so than zombies.
Interesting. Because I wouldn't, so far, as far as I'm concerned, we are 0 for 2. Like, I feel like there's always, all things are possible, but not all things are probable even. Like, I mean, I don't know enough about science to be like, well, there's just no way in hell that we can have this kind of reaction. But I can sit there and say, like, I can definitively say there's a very low chance of this being a thing.
The thing is, you do.
I feel like I'm about to be told I'm wrong again.
You are, because the vampire disease actually exists.
Okay, so define this vampire disease for me.
It's actually the same one that's used when it comes to humans, just in a different, or not humans, but werewolves. But it's
we ain't even discussing werewolves on this one. I feel like that one should come up soon, but
it should. So it's an HPV, like rabies. All right. And it comes from the bat flea. It is a flea infection.
Okay.
It towards someone within 6 to 12 hours of exposure, the victim develops a headache, fever, chills, and other flu-like symptoms, as well as a drastic increase in metabolism and cardiac output as the virus spreads throughout the body. These symptoms can be easily confused with more common infections, although the presence of bite wounds is usually enough to confirm the diagnosis. This stage generally lasts another 6 to 12 hours, during which the vaccine is over 98% effective. The victim should also be treated with fluids and antibiotics. Stage 2 is coma. It puts them into coma to the point where they look as if they're dead. Their heart rate drops to almost nothing.
To the point where, you can't detect it. Very similar to other symptoms our body has. Okay, that's fine. Okay.
When a person infected with HPV survives, if they do, and they awaken fully, they have paranoia, confusion, despondency, and agony of dehydration and malnutrition. And they have an overwhelming hunger for blood.
Okay, so I stand corrected again. Or sit corrected, in this case. Yeah, okay, so on a low-level sense, not like film vampires, but a type of vampire does exist.
Yes, it does exist. In fact,
If that was to be...
Did 16,
did exist.
1616
Right.
is when they came up with the cure for it.
But they also said the bubonic plague was gone, and that popped up in Santa Barbara not too long after I left California.
So that actually happened for entirely different reasons.
Right. What I'm saying is that a lot of times when we say a disease is gone,
right,
we're not always accurate. Like whooping cough, for example. I was one of the first known cases in 20 years.
Okay. Yeah.
Like in New York, it was considered like we just stopped keeping track, and then I popped up, and you're welcome.
Yeah.
I'm the reason why you have that god awful shot now. So like it's not out of the realm of possibility it could come back.
Absolutely, and since nature is the one that caused it,
therefore it could pop back up again, and we would have no clue until it's too late.
Right, and it could,
in theory.
Yeah. So science. It's a fucking hell of a thing. Speaking of science, we have one more subject we want to talk about. And this, okay, so the other ones I've called like a soft, like no way in fuck. Just not happening. I don't believe it. I'm not into it. I've been kind of wrong with a few things. This is one I feel like you're going to agree with me on. I don't believe in the Hollywood version of ghosts. I'm glad you specifically said the Hollywood version of ghosts, because I do believe that hauntings are real. I personally had experiences myself. I have as well. I've done the research. There is no way to scientifically track whether or not they exist. Ghosts exist. You can argue with me all you want, okay? There are literal...
I really want to. I know. I really want to argue this thing, though. And I know I'm wrong. But just the whole energy field thing, yeah. I know it's bullshit.
Well, no, we have technological ways that we think might work for monitoring.
But none of it is proven. None of it's proven. It's all...
None of it has worked. It hasn't worked yet.
We have these glimpses of things, and we can't duplicate anything. So it could be anything from a fucking microwave that has somehow temporarily disrupted your... Yeah.
From a scientific level, there is not enough substantive evidence to call it anything more than mass belief. However,
well, they're all anomalies, is what it's been boiled down to. It's like, well, you saw this, you dealt with this. We can't prove it happened, therefore, this is the best explanation we have for you.
Right, but here's the thing: every year, the Pew Research Institute, as well as several others, MIT, UCLA, Berkeley, several of them go out and do yearly tests and research papers. They send out polls, set them up online. And despite constant evidence to the contrary, they are continuing to look. But also, an astonishing 51% of Americans believe in ghosts and claim to, and another 18% of that claim to have had personal encounters. So,
I mean, you've already said you've had encounters. Not only have I had encounters, but because your boy's had a very weird past. So like, I've even been part of Exorcist before, like...
Well, and that... yeah. And that's why...
That's two different things, necessarily, but what, you know what I mean? Like, I have a hard time also being like, okay, we may not have a... This is a weird one. Like, I call bullshit on zombies. I call bullshit on, like, vampires, the Hollywood ghosts, but, like, actual, like, real-life hauntings, like, nah, dude, I'm all for that. Even though science, I think this is the weakest one scientifically we have.
Scientifically, it's the weakest. Phenomenon-wise, based in reality, it is the most...
It's the strongest.
Yeah. And
at least of these three topics.
Yeah, of these three topics, phenomenon-wise, you have to acknowledge it, and that's why these major research institutes do these yearly tests and send out the polls. And it's because... it's so weird. so many people can believe something, but there's no scientific proof behind it. My personal thought is that we're not at a technological level where we can actually decipher whatever energy patterns it is. Now, whether spirits are just leftover energy or the souls of it hit somebody, I don't know. I'm not going to get into that whole spiel because that's a lot closer to a religious conversation than anything else.
Which I think we both have agreed on is not going to be our strong suit for this, as we're even though that's my background, it's like, okay, I don't feel like that
because
it's not effective in having a logical discussion, though.
It's definitely not, especially since the typical religious response, especially from the Catholic Church, if there is substantive proof that there might be a haunting, is it's go and bless it, hit the place, attempt a cleansing, perform an exorcism, followed by...
Actually, due to Catholic law, they're really not allowed to do an exorcism, only as a last resort now.
Right.
It has been decreed.
And that is why specifically stated those things. That is actually the mandate.
You have to do everything else before the church will even recognize the possibility. And more often than not, they will send you to a psychiatrist long before they will send a priest to exercise.
I believe they actually require you to have 3 or 4 separate priests to come and also check and make sure that and verify the data. Because even the Catholic Church has become to the point where they're using science to make sure that they're not doing anything.
Exactly. Like that's one of the misnomers real quick of just how that whole thing works is a lot of people, like, the first thing they believe is, oh, the Catholic Church will just send out a priest to do an exorcism. No. And it's the furthest thing from the truth. Like, at this point, they've fucked up enough where things were seriously just something of a mental illness or things that had nothing to do with that and have caused enough damage that the popes have decreed, like, hey, you can't do this anymore.
Aliens are not on topic tonight, Mana.
Hey, but I'm down for that subject. But I feel like this has been kind of exhausting. Like, we both kind of agree. Probably the most probable of the 3 just can't be proven by science.
I would say that it's not only probable, ghosts do exist. I'm
a huge believer in that, but only because I've seen enough weird shit in my life that I can't explain.
Right, and I'm a very based in science individual. I will go and research things to the end of the earth if I don't understand what's going on. And I'm also one of those types of people where seeing is believing. And I have seen enough evidence myself. I mean, I've had a personal haunting before where I walked into a house, was immediately had this feeling of not being welcomed, stuck around for 5 minutes, and then I had a fist-sized bruise covering my ribs. I'm sorry, but that's pretty good evidence that...
Let's say, can't explain that one.
Yeah. Nothing to drink. No drugs at the time. They're cold sober.
I certainly don't have that problem tonight. All right, is there anything else you want to touch on with ghosts?
Yeah, I don't really have anything else myself. Do you want to share an experience of your own?
Oh, I'm about to sound like a goddamn lunatic.
Too late.
Fair. All right. Do you know what? I got a story for you. So this is way back, and actually, I still talk to these people today. I was at my biological mother's house. We were all hanging out, sober. At this point, I was assisting a youth pastor at a church. It was me, this girl Becky, and this guy John. We were hanging out in my mom's hot tub, just chilling, hanging out. We kept on thinking we saw someone on the roof. And it doesn't, like, I was the only one who was like actually living there at the time, so I'd go and I'd check and there'd be no one fucking there. We did this like 4 or 5 times. At that point, I'm getting irritated because now I gotta mop the floor. You know what I mean? Because I'm running up the fucking stairwell to see if anyone's there. This goes for like an hour and eventually gets to the point where Becky will not go in the house anymore. Period. She's losing her mind. She's freaking out. And it's like, okay, fine, fucking whatever. So me and John do a thorough sweep of the house. We see nothing. By the end of the night, I'm starting to fucking lose it because I'm hearing sounds. I'm having issues. I curl up in a ball because I've had enough. I'm exhausted. I'm just curled up. And I can hear John. It's me and him. And he's maybe about 6 or 7 feet away from me. Also he's sitting in a chair. And next thing I know, I feel like I'm getting kicked in the side of the head. I fucking hit the ground. I look up, John's still in his chair. He's wide-eyed. He's freaking out. And I end up with a bruise that covered all of this. Like the whole side of my head was almost black. I had to wear a bandana to cover the side of my head. Zero explanation.
Yep.
I still got, to this day, I got nothing. Was it a haunting? Fuck, I don't know. Did I maybe have some sort of blackout and the bruise was caused from me falling and hitting my floor or hitting the tile floor? I think that is a possibility. At that time, I was sitting in a hot tub for hours, like going on and off between being hot and cold. I may have gone into body shock. I may have exhausted myself, but I don't know.
Now, you said you were with Pastor.
I was an assistant youth pastor at the time.
Okay. Were you with your pastor at that time, or?
Let's see. At that point, it would have been a weekend. I probably had done like a youth sermon maybe 2 days prior.
Okay.
If it was a weekend, we typically did Thursdays, so Saturday we were probably all hanging out.
Okay. So, in both of these cases, yours and mine, I almost want to say I actually can't separate demonology and ghosts because they're both so linked in energies as well as spiritual perception.
Well, this just got brought up in my chat, which is another possibility for what could explain my episode, because I do have a hard time separating the two as well from ghost and demon. But even it could have been something simple as like a micro migraine that just caused me to fall over. Sudden sharp pain.
Yeah.
I don't know. The whole thing to me is like there's other instances that went on that I don't like talking about, so I don't.
And what about poltergeists?
A negative energy that's creating forces to disrupt things around you? I don't know. I find that less likely.
See,
only because, like, I've seen a lot of weird shit, and that's one I haven't experienced yet. I would like to. Matter of fact, there's several places in the area where that kind of phenomena is known to happen, like in my state, and I would love to see it.
Just hang around me for a day.
Maybe I won't now.
No,
but no, like I would love to actually see some of that stuff.
I'm serious right now. See, I when it comes to poltergeist, I think that is less of a issue with ghosts or demonology than it is your own physical energies. I short out light bulbs and electronics constantly. I can't wear watches. I drain the batteries.
Okay.
I can't, you know what hematite is? It's a stone that has a lot of metal properties. It's usually used to absorb negative energies. I shatter hematite within hours of holding it. So,
this is all new to me. Because again, like I come from very much like our religious backgrounds and current viewpoints on things. I feel like are very, very, very different.
More than likely, which I think
because I come from a Christian background with a very large interest in like the voodoo kind of thing. Not as something I'm going to practice, but I think it's interesting. So with a lot of the sort of stuff, like, oh, well, this will help with.
So Christian background with occult interests.
Yeah. So like when it comes to some of the other occultic stuff, I am less familiar. Such as, I have a very, very good friend who's like, oh, if you're feeling this negative, have this around you and it will help. And I'm like, the fuck? Like, I just don't feel like that really works. But again, what do I know? I'm a bartender.
Right. But the thing is, that's not really... There's actually science behind that. It's been used in China and tons of countries. It's feng shui, it's energy correction. It's making sure all of your chakras are aligned. Everything has energy. And that's why
I'll agree with that part so far.
When your energy is out of balance, people feel lost, confused, they're unable to focus, they're more likely to hurt themselves or others, and that's the misalignment of your internal energies. Or so chakra says, and Chinese medicine says.
Okay.
Extending
I
that.
don't know how much stock I put into that, but I know enough people who not only swear by it, but I've seen positive benefits that when they do that, I won't rule it out.
Right. I mean, I've personally done some... I usually feel a little bit better whenever I go and get acupuncture, and that's realigning your chakras.
I've yet to do acupuncture, but I'm not against the idea.
Yeah.
That may be one of those things where I may go get it and have to do an extra report here on the podcast. You be like, hey, listen, I went and actually tried this shit out, and then discuss that a little bit, because it's another blind spot in my current knowledge.
Right. So because of that, I personally don't think poltergeists are more of a negative energy spirit. But it's, in most cases, it's somebody that is going through a emotionally turmoil time in their life. Typically divorces, death in the family, loss of a child or sibling, any number of things where someone could just simply be missing.
Right.
And that causes an energy disruption, which causes electronics to fizzle out because the AC and DC is being completely wonked out by this added energy force.
Okay.
Now, that is...
Okay, this is my weak spot. So, like, this is, yet again, me being taught something here.
That's my personal belief when it comes to poltergeists. I think that negative spirits exist? I think we both agree that spirits exist, period. They do.
I'm a firm believer that there is something. I mean, I can't... Yeah. I'm not going to say, like, for me, I'm a big belief in like personal aura, for example. Like, I feel like I can vibe with someone right away, depending on how I feel on a spiritual level around them.
Right.
That I will definitely agree with. Beyond that, I am very much a skeptic.
Right. But when it comes to ghosts, do you agree that ghosts exist?
I'm going to say that I believe that is the most probable.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't believe in enough empirical evidence to say 100% fact. Yes.
See,
what I will say is that there is enough weird things that have happened around me and to people that I trust that I am way more likely to believe in than other random phenomena.
Yeah.
Like if you like with your story, like when you tell me stuff, I'm way more likely to believe it than someone who I watch on fucking YouTube.
Right. You know, I'm really feeling like the majority of cases where we're coming across this right now is that, yeah, ghosts exist. Do we understand the extent of it? No, but if negative...
Well, I don't think we have a clue.
Right, and that's because there is no scientific proof yet. But at the same point, we both have had experiences. We both know it. I mean, poll-wise, statistically, there is an abundance of people that claim to have had experiences and believe in apparitions.
Right.
Now, whether or not that... I'm wondering how close certain movies have got it, though. The first one that comes to my mind is 13 Ghosts.
Oh, you lost me right there already.
Now, I'm not talking about the any of the mumbo jumbo.
The negative energy trapped from a traumatic experience is what you're talking about. I'm assuming
that is specifically what I'm talking about.
I don't know. I can't. I won't call bullshit. I want to, but I won't, simply because you have certain areas, like even there's areas around where I live that I don't like going to, because even showing up there, that aura doesn't feel right to me.
Right. It's like the moment you even start turning down that area, your gut instinct and everything goes, no. Get the hell out of here. Right?
I mean, that's typically the feeling, yes. Like, I won't lie. My biological mother's house, I do not like setting foot there. Period. I don't like being on the property. When you're there, you don't hear fucking birds. You don't see squirrels. There's no goddamn rabbits. And that town is infested with rabbits.
So, there's a road nearby where I used to live. It goes for about 7-8 miles. And it's perfectly fine during the day. The moment the sun sets, the entire feeling of that entire environment changes. And it's actually one of the nation's highest death rates when it comes to roads. And that's supposedly because
the road is haunted, is what you're saying.
That is the claim. It's mainly because of where it's located. That is in farmland, so there's a lot of dust particles that get picked up by the wind and obscures the road. And at night, that's really bad, especially if it's a foggy night.
Okay, so that automatically is like, okay, not a haunting. That's the scientific weather. Yeah, there's like a phenomena around there that specifically state like, hey, that's just dust. It's swamp gas.
And I would leave it there, except...
Oh, shit.
I've had a 1954 Cadillac go through my car.
I got nothing for you there. Got nothing for you there.
So, I definitely agree. There are certain areas where,
big old bag of nope.
Yeah, big old bag.
That's like one of my favorite sayings, by the way. Big old bag of nope.
So, if you ever looking to drive down Barlow Road, not at night.
I don't fucking like driving, period, but that's just me. Not a fan.
All right. Well,
anything else on Ghost? I mean, shit, I got nothing. I'm gonna be honest with you. I feel like, how do you top that?
Right. I think we can take it to Q&A now. See if anyone has any points or has any questions. And hello, Professor Hammes. How are you?
Let's see. Waiting to see if I have any questions pop up in chat, but I got nothing here.
Do you have any questions about ghosts, vampires, or
or zombies?
Yeah, zombies.
Bullshit, maybe.
Apparently, Professor Hammes had a similar experience.
The driving through.
Yeah.
Let's see, I got one guy in my chat, Manuel Gale, saying that he has the bloodiest road in America on average, normally 4 to 5 wrecks a day on it.
Yep. I actually know what one he's talking about, so...
I will pass. Thank you. We can't interact. Let's see, my dad says ghosts are visions of the past we can't interact with. Thoughts?
Oh... You know, I think that goes...
Would that be connected with the idea that an event happened and it's a lingering energy from it?
I think it would. Especially with the... I mean, I remember it very, very clearly. It was a cherry red 1954 Cadillac with the hood down and everything. So, the fact
knows more about cars than I do as well. Sweet.
It's actually because I looked that up afterward. I was like, I looked up old cars. So
fair enough.
I'm not
after an event like that, I probably would too.
I was like, what the hell was that? But yeah, I would say that it's possible it's just lingering energies from the past that were a substantive amount to leave an imprint in that environment. So yes,
I feel like that is real. I mean, if we're accepting that idea that a energy can linger in an area depending on what may have caused it, I definitely feel like that would be probable then if we are accepting that as an idea, which I think we are.
Yeah, I'm definitely accepting that as an idea because that seems the most plausible. I mean, that's also the scientific way that they try monitoring everything is through electromagnetic fields and just through energy in general. So, scientifically speaking, I would say that's probably the most logical. I don't discount it. So, my chat's asking about spiritual projection, like out-of-body experiences. I don't think that qualifies as ghosts in any matter.
I feel like that is a subject we should talk about.
Okay.
Because it definitely goes into some of the stranger aspects that we could discuss. I don't feel like it qualifies under ghost though, because they're not dead.
Right.
I feel like that's a qualifier. Is that a qualifier? I feel like
I would say because it's an out-of-body experience, and typically with spiritual projection, in my understanding of it, it is a intentional thing for you to have a better awareness of your surroundings.
That's one I'm gonna have to research because
and again, that's from my understanding. I'm not very well versed on it either, so perhaps
that's something we can discuss coming up.
Yeah, I think spiritual projection and I think religious intonations of demonology. I
am all for that. With demonology, yes, please, I got you.
So, let's do an actual all things spiritual one that's just dedicated to nothing but demonology, spiritual projection, all of that stuff that involves the spirit versus ghosts.
Okay, I do have to ask this from my chat real quick. It's been brought up many times. What's your take on the bath salt zombies? It's been brought up for the last almost 2 hours.
It's not a zombie.
Thank you. It's been brought up so many times. I had to. Now, Gales, I got you, homie.
Now, here's the thing. While it's not a zombie, it does exhibit zombie characteristics.
Yes.
And I would say if there was a man-made zombie virus that was going to be a long-term thing, that would more than likely what it would occur as. And less the bringing back the undead. But sadly, the definition of a zombie is something that is actually dead. Since we're talking about
reanimated
zombies,
life. Yeah, and the undead.
Right. And not Haitian zombies, which is actually not even spelled the same way. It's Z-O-M-B-I, not
yeah, so drastically different. Although we've discussed it, it still touches on the the extra mundane, it's not the same concept. They're drastically different. Okay, do we have any other questions from chats?
Yeah, we'll definitely cover that when we do the spirituality one, Professor Hammis. He was asking if you're, I think if you're visiting other places, but are you actually there yourself? What if you're seeing through the eyes of something else, for the spiritual projection or out-of-body experience?
Ooh.
So, I will be taking that down, and I will research that specifically for that episode.
Perfect.
Because we could talk about it, but that's way off top.
and honestly, I wouldn't even be able to have it. I feel like I've had a lack of intelligent input for some of these things. I got no intelligent input for that one, though.
Honestly, you have. It's been more based on instinct and references to movies, but I mean that's what you're good at.
That's my basis. But I feel like spiritual projection, I mean, even for film, is actually a subject that isn't talked about enough. You have like Insidious, which is very big into it. You have some other films that have a little bit of it here and there, but it's never really the main drive for a genre.
It is not a Hollywood focus. Spiritual projection is definitely more in the indie underground. There are several like old gore movies where the spiritual projection was a big thing in.
Well, you're also getting into weird hypnosis things like that, like Wizard of Gore, things like that.
Right,
but it's never been a popular subject. Like it's there, but it's not a zombie or a vampire.
Yeah, and spiritual projection is definitely not in the. It's not in a Hollywood wheelhouse. It's just not. They've never done anything like it very well outside of the Insidious movies.
I'll say the first Insidious film, I think, was the only one I feel like to have a good Hollywood version.
Right.
At least the first one. The rest, I gotta finish watching those, but let's do one more.
If the zombie apocalypse did exist, would zombies biting others make others and then turning true? If it was how... so, here's the thing. If you are talking about Romero zombies and Hollywood zombies, it wouldn't matter because you just have to wait 4 days. Because at that point, everyone is dead. They've putrefied. Their brains are liquefied. They're no longer a functioning zombie. A zombie requires the human brain to function. That is what drives it. It is the primal portion of the brain that's activated when it comes to zombies. It is the survival. It is the I need to eat. It is simply the hippocampus that is thriving at that point. I'm pretty sure it's the hippocampus. That's the need. The survival. Now I need to double check myself.
But say, nope, I make things look pretty. Beyond that, I don't have much expertise in that area.
Yes, it is.
I could accurately paint your brain liquefying. I couldn't tell you how that happens, though.
So, now, if we were talking the my theory, which is more of an evolution on a macro level from nature or a macro level from DNA alteration caused by human interference, then yes, that type of mutation would definitely be a thing. That is how the virus would spread, is through contact with another, through some transfer of DNA, whether that be via biting, scratching, saliva, blood transfusion, whatever it might be. That's how that would happen for it to become a widespread panic. Or more than likely, if it was, the U.S. government, for instance, just throw it in a needle and toss it to Oakland, California, or...
Of course, you go to Oakland first.
I mean,
you know I'm a Kansas City fan, right? So for me, yeah, go ahead. Bye, Oakland.
I actually didn't know that. So
I'm a diehard Kansas City fan.
So the reason I went to Oakland is that's actually where the first drug experiment was, where they first.
Oh my God, we need to talk about some of that stuff at one of these dates. We really have to.
Okay, so this actually is wrapping up at the perfect time. We were planning for about 2 hours long,
and it's amazingly what we got.
Yeah. So unless there are some last minute questions, I think we'll go ahead and end it here. Find someone to give some double love to.
See, I haven't even looked at who is online for raids. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm on it. Let's see here. We got Capo. We got Untamed Wolf.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be biased. I'm always gonna want to raid someone from Safe Space. That's just because
and that's why
of who I am. I would throw my weight behind Capo on that one. I haven't been able to raid the dude in a while. Fantastic human being.
And I shall follow. So thank you everyone for joining us for the Extra Mundane show. This is the very first episode. The next one will be in 2 weeks.
Hold on, real quick. Someone threw a question out, and you wanted one more question, and I'm just dumb and I didn't read it.
Huh?
What if zombieism were only sexually transmitted? Would you fuck a zombie? I think that's a perfect spot to end it.
So,
it's the first time you've been fucking speechless and for all you're like.
Well, no. See, now I gotta decide how much I'm gonna disclose of myself. Because you asked me. So the question I would have.
It's getting saucy.
The question I would have is that particular strain of zombieism, can you protect you against it with a condom?
Oh, dear Jesus.
Because if condom, yes, then yes.
Oh, okay.
I mean, if there's a way to protect myself from it, then yeah. Sure, why not? It's not necrophilia as long as no one finds out, right? What about you, Horror?
Oh, sweet Jesus.
You made me answer it. Now it's your turn.
Okay, if we're under the assumption that it can be like, yo, homie, you just wrap it up, you're good to go. Like...
See?
Yeah,
exactly.
Sure. What I mean, if I haven't shown you any photos of my exes, but you can't tell a difference. Just saying.
That was my reasoning too.
Oh God, they're gonna clip that. That's gonna be all over fucking Twitter later. That's gonna be great.
I've had a couple bath salt nightmares. All right, thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Okay, let's go ahead and we're gonna throw a raid over to Capo. On that note, we're going to start that raid right now. I definitely want to thank everyone in chat for coming and hanging out. I know that on my end, we've had some video issues. Yeah, we're going to try to fix that for next time. Maybe next time I won't drink so much bourbon, so I won't say on the middle of the stream, like, hey, I'd fuck a zombie.
I mean, it was the end of the stream, but, you know.
Middle, end, it's all good. Anyways, yeah, much love to all of you. I'm going to go ahead and raid right now. We will see you all tomorrow for my stream. Like, when are they going to see you next?
Probably tomorrow night in your stream, after I do my Let's Read It tomorrow night.
Beautiful. What are we reading?
Probably going to do Tristan and Isolde.
Perfect. All right, everyone, thank you so much for listening. We will catch you all next time, all right?
All right.
Bye now.
Oh my God.
How are you feeling, my dude?
I was doing all right up until that.
Thank you for the raid.
That was too funny. I had to ask.
little warning in Zoom chat might have been nice.
Cat track was
Nah.
That was very much Jared in the headlights. Like, wait, did he just ask me that?
I think you came off way better than I did because I was like, yeah.
Go ahead and finish it. Actually,
I mean, honestly, I'd probably hit it no matter what, just so I could say, hey, I banged a zombie. But
Well, this is what happened. You ready?
yeah,
We'll give him something to talk
In my head, if Ellie was a zombie,
go for it.
yeah, I'd fuck her brains out.
And see, that's what came in my mind as well. Was that Pixie was a zombie? Yeah.
Okay, so I think one of the issues I have with what we did is the zoom. The video quality is amazing, but I think that's why we're having so many bad frame drops.
It's possible. What do you have your settings at for it?
I tried to have it optimized. Maybe before we start next time, we can do a couple tests on use a stream test
Yeah,
and see how it goes.
I was kind of thinking we should do that, but I also didn't want to get people going, hey, I thought the show was on.
Well, no, like you could actually have it set up so it goes to a test server. It doesn't go live.
Oh, shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think we should do that next time. I think we have a pretty good basis, though. I think it's fun. I like the idea of having a stupid random question at the end.
Yeah.
Just something fucking dumb.
50%.
Yeah, I'm actually... I thought that went really well, and just